Okay, here's a new episode. As you can see, I'll probably upload the last episode the same time as this one, but that was actually last weekend. I was having some issues. I got a new phone, and I guess the way some things work, my phone is newer than my editing software, so the video that I edited for last weekend did not come out very well. But I'm going to try playing with it and see if I can get that uploaded before this one. If not, that video just kind of covered getting the front diff back in. But as you can see, we are back running. So I just loaded a updated tune. I took her for a spin a couple times last night and got a couple logs to kind of see how things are going after, this whole oil debacle. I'm not sure how well you guys can hear me now with it idling, but let me just kind of go around with it running and just let you guys hear that it's still sounding pretty good. All right, let me go ahead and turn it off, and I'll kind of go over a few things, kind of an update on things getting put back together. That way you guys can hear me. All right, so like I said, we're back running. Coolant has been filled up. We have the water pump alternator belt back on. We're clamped. Check the transmission. I actually was able to shave the back of this. You really can't tell, but this has been trimmed in the back so I can actually install this separate from the intake manifold. So it looks a lot better. As you can see, we don't have our valve cover lines going across because we do have the 2019 valve cover. So this is my new PCV system, new catch can. This is a UPR. Their catch cans seem to be a lot nicer than kind of the Amazon one I had on there. I modified their bracket to use my same mounting point that I had on the Amazon catch can. And basically the way this is designed is the 2019 Plus has they say it's the PCV is in the valve cover, so it removes it from the valley cover. So as you remember, I went to the ICT valley cover to get rid of the DOD solenoids, so I no longer have a spot for the PCV. So I decided to go to the 2019 valve cover. So this is now our PCV. This would typically go into the intake manifold, but since I'm running a catch can and we have the brake boost, this is how I have it ran. So the way I have it is air comes in through here into the top of the catch can, catches oil vapor, and then our out goes into the intake manifold. So typical catch can, and then I have a T-plumb for the brake booster. This is how the factory Colorado was ran. So it had a line that ran from the brake booster to the back side of the intake manifold, and then it ran to the electronic vacuum pump. So I'm kind of keeping along with that. DOD's been deleted on this, so from what I've been reading, you don't really need a vacuum pump. The vacuum pump kicks on when displacement on demand works, and when the cylinders deactivate, there's not enough vacuum pressure pulling from the intake to basically give you brakes during braking condition. But I decided to keep the system. My wiring harness did have a plug for the vacuum pump, so it's still wired in. So I figured I would keep that kind of same thing going. So I went and bought all these lines and fittings from UPR to kind of match what came with the catch can. So we have our in, like I said, our out. I have a T here. I have a quick release so I can actually disconnect some of this stuff pretty easily in case I need to do stuff. I do have a check valve. So the way the factory was is there's a check valve going into the intake manifold, and there's a check valve before the vacuum pump, so you don't get that oil vapor coming the other way and getting into the brake booster or the vacuum pump. So I have that all ran the exact same as factory. I do have a check valve here. I probably don't need that one because the line comes this way, but the UPR catch can actually has a check valve in this line, so I figured I'd throw an extra one. This is probably doing the same thing as this one, but it can't hurt. They're going the same direction. No big deal. But yeah, so that's our new PCV layout. Looks a whole lot cleaner. Don't have to have that. I'm still working on, and I'm still not kind of a fan of how I have this line. So this is the fresh air. The way this, if you remember, this is from an LS, and this kind of comes out at a funky angle and kind of, it's not easy to work around the inlet for the intake. I have a 45 for this fitting, but the 45 I can't find one that fits a smaller line so that it works with the fitting on the intake manifold or the intake. So this is kind of what I'm working with right now. I'm gonna play with this and get it to be a little bit better, but the 45 actually works a whole lot better. I've already played with it. It'll work. The problem is getting a line that fits this and the quick release for the valve cover. So I'll keep playing with that. Not sure what I'm going to do there, but this is working for now. I'm just worried that this is basically sitting on this, and I don't want it to cut this line open. I did put this on there because originally it was hitting here. But when I put this cover on, it's now hitting in another location. So this is that hydraulic hose protector I have on some of my other lines. But yeah, so took her for a spin. She seems to be running pretty good. The tune, we're still working with that, getting that dialed in. It was a little shaky, but I found out my tuner said we were working in some VE tables when I actually had the oil pressure issue. And yeah, those VE tables rely on ambient air temperature, and because we had some other stuff turned off, that might be why it was it was running pretty good. It was just a little, like, you could tell it needed some tweaking last night driving it around, and that's because the ambient air temperature was at a different temperature than what it was last night. It was actually a lot warmer than what ambient air was. So we've got that addressed. I've got a new tune put in there. It's at the ambient temperature it is right now. So I'm going to go take it for another spin, get another log over there, and we're going to keep tuning this thing, get it finalized. I will note, so last night I did get on the highway. It was very brief, maybe 2 miles. Got it up to 80. I did not feel a vibration. That's a good thing. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that that keeps up. I did have low tire pressure. I was only about 27 PSI, so I was getting quite a bit of tire noise, but I wasn't feeling a vibration. It was just very noisy from the tires. Pretty sure that was the tires. I got them aired up right now. They're back up to where I typically run them. I typically run these about 32 to 34 psi. Last night they were down to 26, so they were pretty noisy, but they were noisy all the time, so that's telling me it was my tires. So fingers crossed that our diff rebuild got rid of this vibration issue and we can continue on getting this thing tuned, and we'll be 100% ready to start ripping this thing into the off-roading again. But yeah, she's definitely looks a lot better there with the cover and the new PCV setup that eliminated that kind of crossover thing I wasn't really a big fan of. But yeah, she's still looking good. But let's see what else. I'm going to get this thing weighed. I do want to get a weight. I'm going to try to calculate some of my mods and how much more that adds, because I'm very curious to see what the weight difference is between this and a, stock Colorado, to see if we've added a ton of weight with the V8. I'm thinking we didn't add any weight. Maybe very little, possibly even less. From what I know, I think the transmission is a little heavier, but I think we've lightened up the engine due to not having dual overhead cams and the giant heads that the V6 has. I think that might have dropped a significant weight off the engine part of it, but we'll see. I'm gonna get this thing weighed. There's a scale at a truck stop near me, so I'll go get on that, get a good weight on it, and then kind of do some calculations, and I'll put that in a future video. But yeah, I'm gonna keep tuning it, and then once I kind of get that all good, I'll go ahead and do kind of a general full-on walk around that kind of shows the overall build and how it progressed, to kind of give a update based on other videos and what may have changed from the build after videos were made. Also, I do have an issue with the rear end. It's not really an issue. It's not related to the swap or anything, but those that have done rear diff oil changes and you see the aluminum in there, I'm getting that. I think I might have covered that in a very, very early video when I did the diff rebuild about the thrust block, and it's aluminum, and it kind of, as you shift and let off load, it kind of hits the spider gears and wears. So I had some weird play when I was putting the drive shaft on, and I decided to open up the rear end. I'll post a couple photos right now. I've taken a couple photos of it, but you can see the thrust block. It's wearing way more than what it was when I did the re-gear, and we have less than 10,000 miles on this since that re-gear. So it's wearing pretty good for only being 10,000 miles, no off-road, basically just cruise tuning, nothing really beating on. So yeah, that's definitely concerning. I've put in a notification to kind of, right now there's no one that has any carriers in stock, the e-locker. So I'm kind of monitoring to see when those come back in stock, and I'm going to watch pricing and try to pick one up just to have one on hand. Those that don't know, if you know how the thrust block works, that has the pin retainer bolt that holds the pin that actually locks the spider gears and keeps everything in the rear end together. If that thrust block spins just enough, that bolt will hit the spider gears and it destroys the whole rear end. All the spider gears will end up probably chipping teeth. That's if you're lucky. If you're not lucky, when that hits the spider gears, if it breaks that pin retainer bolt, your pin can end up falling out. If that falls out, your housing's gone. It's going to dump into the housing and then basically just chunk that up. So on the lookout for that. Hopefully I can find a carrier in the next month or two. I'm going to kind of just take it easy on this thing for a little while. I may also revisit. I have designed that to be machined out of brass. So I'm going to send that out to a couple machine shops again to kind of get some pricing and maybe get one out of brass. I may still buy the carrier because my thinking is if I do dig into that, is to keep the gears the same and the shims the same and not have to do a full rebuild. I can pull the carrier and then switch out the internals into my existing carrier, so the dimensions should all be the same and my shim stack should all be good. And then that way I could just do a carrier rebuild, reinstall it, leave all the shims. It'll be a lot easier to fix that than having to dismantle everything and then start messing with pinion, pulling the pinion again. If I do it the way I want to do it, I won't have to pull the pinion. It'll make things a whole lot easier. But yeah, just wanted to discuss that a little, and then I'll continue keeping people updated. I'll catch you guys on the next one.